No matter what walk of life you're from, there is one universal rule that binds everyone together. We all hate our boss. It's something that's widely accepted even in the footballing world. Not all the time, of course. I imagine working under Jurgen Klopp is like having a walking teddy bear for a manager, but with better teeth and a laugh more infectious than Lily Phillips. But sometimes, just sometimes, there are those instances where player and manager collide with there being no way back for either party. Today, we're going to go beyond the Kop and look at 10 times Liverpool players and managers clashed. And while you're here, please make sure to click like and subscribe and comment examples you think I've missed down below, because your opinion is just as important as mine. Number 10, Jersey Dudek and Rafa Benitez. To say that Rafa Benitez isn't the most personable person to manage at Anfield would be an understatement. Multiple players have come out over the years explaining how the man who was most definitely not the waiter, while tactically brilliant and elevating to a player's career, was also lacking a certain level of emotional relatability that would allow someone to warm to him on a personal level. A fact discovered by none other than 2005 Champions League final hero Jersey Dudek. In the Polish shot-stopper's autobiography, A Big Pole in Our Goal, which is so many levels of innuendo it will make your head spin, the cult hero explained how he felt disrespected following the arrival of Pepe Reina in 2006, and after being told he'd be demoted to the number 2 role on the bench. Seeing this as a perfect time to move away, Dudek was approached by German side Cologne that summer, only for the move to be rejected by Liverpool, and more specifically Rafa Benitez, with the decision frustrating Dudek so much that he admitted to wanting to punch Benitez in the face just to force the move away, but chose not to, as he still respected the boss for what he'd accomplished and because he didn't want a media scandal to derail his career, as it, quote, wouldn't look too good on the CV. Number 9, Nicolas Anelka and Gerard Houllier. Oh no, it's the conflict that resulted in us signing Diouf like some sort of weird French butterfly effect. S'il vous plaît, allongez tout Diouf indeed. So, Nicolas Anelka has a history of non-cooperation, as spells at West Brom, Real Madrid, the French national team. The list is fairly long, but what some people may not know is that when the Frenchman was signed on loan from the future Champions League winners Paris Saint-Germain on loan in December of 2001, there was actually hesitancy not from Liverpool, but from Anelka himself. In a 2002 interview, Les Sulk explained how before joining Liverpool, he was caught in two minds, given the frosty relationship he had with Gerard Houllier from his stint as the France under-17s manager, given the fact that the then manager preferred the likes of David Trezeguet and Thierry Henry ahead of him in the pecking order. Anelka still joined, but after the decision was made not to sign the man who had passed around the Premier League more than a joint in a uni hall, the attacker went on record as saying that there was, quote, preconceived ideas about him because he was French, and that's why Houllier chose not to sign him, saying he felt that had Liverpool been managed by an Englishman at the time, that he would have been brought in on a permanent deal. Number 8, Djibril Cisse and Rafa Benitez. Just a pre-warning, this list could have purely been titled 10 players who fell out with Rafa Benitez, because as shown by Jersey Dudek's entry, the man has as much empathy as a sack of spuds at the best of times, and this won't be his last inclusion on this list. It was an awkward time for Djibril Cisse. He was signed during the back end of the Gerard Houllier managerial reign before Benitez came into the squad. This set the Frenchman back 2 spaces already, given the fact that he wasn't a player Benitez particularly viewed as a suitable player for his squad. Now, despite the fact that Cisse came back from a horrific leg break in his debut season, which I'm not going to put on screen on here, shame on you for wanting it, and despite the fact that he made 60 appearances the following campaign, scoring 19 goals in the process, including the 2006 FA Cup final, Benitez still wanted him out, which sparked the back and forth in the media, which reached Gordon Ramsay levels of boiling point. Cisse said he felt like he was being pushed out of Liverpool against his will, while being quoted as saying, "You can't please everyone, but I don't think I could stand another season like the one I've just had." Benitez bit back by saying that Cisse has to, quote, understand the difference between a club that plays to win matches and a club like Liverpool that plays to win trophies. Rough stuff there. Or before Mohawk enthusiast DC bit back by saying, "It is too much, it is too easy to make it look like I want to go, but he should be man enough to admit that he wants me to leave." Oof. Number 7, Pepe Reina and Brendan Rodgers. I mean, this one isn't a falling out as such. It's more of someone running away from home, leaving a letter attached to the fridge for the partner to find the next day, saying they've gone out for milk, but that they shouldn't expect them to come back anytime soon. Ahead of the 2013-14 season, things were very up in the air for Brendan Rodgers and his yellow chompers. Luis Suarez was banned going into the new season, and we'd signed 8 players, but let's be honest, half of them were wank with a capital aspas, so it was more like 2, one of which was Simon Mignolet, who was surprisingly promoted straight to first team keeper, with Pepe Reina being sent on loan to Napoli instead. Now, a loan normally means a player comes back though, right? Well, not always. In a February 2014 interview, Rodgers explained how Reina had already written out a farewell letter to the fans, much to the surprise of himself. This was in retaliation to the keeper deciding he would not be returning to Anfield the year prior after he tried to force through several moves to Barcelona. The loan move to Napoli was simply a way to get him out of the club and get some game time, which he knew he wouldn't get if he submitted a transfer request. Rodgers was quoted as saying, "When you loan a player, you expect him to come back," but obviously Pepe has made it very clear when he went to Napoli that we should be looking elsewhere. He was looking to move. So for me, it probably sounded like he made his decision there. Number 6, Ronnie Whelan and Graham Souness. Graham Souness not getting on with someone? Lies and slander, I say. It's fair to say Graham Souness struggled to find a way to funnel all that aggression from his playing days into an effective way to manage a football team, but that didn't stop him from fairly publicly lambasting Reds icon Ronnie Whelan during an intense confrontation following a 4-1 defeat to Blackburn Rovers at Ewood Park. According to Whelan, Souness started laying into the older lads of the dressing room, paying particularly close attention to the likes of Steve Nicol, John Barnes and Ian Rush, because if there's ever a way to get the squad behind you, it's ripping into 3 of the club's biggest legends, but sure, go with your gut, big lad. Whelan, apparently feeling fed up of the manager's ranting and lack of accountability for his own failings as a coach, spoke up and said, quote, "Look, it's not as simple as that. You try talking to them and they tell you to off. It's clear he was losing it, so when he snapped back at me again, I simply told him to fuck off and leave me alone, with no one around me backing me up, which was a bad situation." 9 months later, Souness was gone, and I'm sure people's blood pressure went down a notch. Number 5, Yossi Benayoun and Rafa Benitez. Hello, Rafa. It's awfully nice to see you again. Cold and robotic are the words used to describe the former Reds manager in this entry, and honestly, yeah, that about covers it. So Yossi Benayoun, a criminally underrated midfielder for Liverpool in my opinion, apparently shared the same sentiment during his run with the club from 2007 until a surprise departure to Chelsea in 2010. Safe to say the move was a bit of a baffling one, given his cult hero status amongst the fan base and his performances in matches like against Fulham and Besiktas, which saw him become a beloved figure around Anfield. However, all was explained in a July 2010 interview following the move to London. Benayoun revealed that he was alienated from the Liverpool squad by Rafa Benitez, saying, "Everyone asks me why I left Liverpool, and there was only one reason: Rafa Benitez. If I played well, he never gave me credit. He tried to destroy my confidence, and you can't treat a player like this." It became so blatantly obvious that Benayoun was being mistreated that there were actually occasions where fans would boo the decision to remove him from the pitch. That's how much people wanted Benayoun to get game time, but sadly, Benitez didn't see it that way, with Yossi even making the comparison to a former player who had been ostracised by Benitez in the past, being quoted as saying, "He tried to break me like he broke Riera." And speaking of, number 4, Albert Riera and Rafa Benitez. The World Cup can very easily sway a footballer's footballing decisions. It can affect whether they stay at a club or make the bold step to move elsewhere. In the case of Albert Riera, it swayed his decision to go on national radio and publicly slander the manager. Oh dear. In March of 2010, the lad signed from Espanyol in 2008 went on Radio Marca with no intention than to absolutely try and bury the man's managerial career. The left winger said that he felt frustrated to having his appearances limited ahead of the 2010 World Cup, having made just 12 all season. I'm sure the 2 separate injuries had nothing to do with it, Big Al. Before being quoted as saying, "When the coach says nothing to you, you are well with no physical problems and training well, you cannot help but think it must be something personal." Or before he said the infamous line, "He's never sought out a solution with a player by talking with him. He thinks he's in charge and everything else falls on deaf ears." Now, to be fair to Riera, he has since come out and apologised, saying he was selfish as a player, but given the fact that the lad was suspended by the club for this interview before the decision was made to transfer list the then 28-year-old, seeing him sold to Olympiacos for just €6 million shows just how career-destroying the comments were for the once promising attacker. Number 3, Mamadou Sakho and Jurgen Klopp. It's hardly a falling out, so to speak, as much as it is one person being an utter wang and the other person doing their job, but here we go. Mamadou Sakho was a fairly polarising figure on the pitch. Some matches we saw glimpses of the potential superstar we signed from PSG in 2013, and on other occasions he moved like a snowman slowly melting over a long winter. But one thing that people could agree on was that he had an infectious personality. From gate-crashing pre-season tour videos of Alcatraz to pranking teammates in training, the lad was a bundle of fun, but sometimes This affected the professionalism of the club and the player himself. During our 2016 American pre-season tour, it was reported that Sakho had been sent back to the UK alone for reasons unknown. That was until Jurgen spoke out about the incident during a press conference ahead of our International Champions Cup match against Chelsea, stating that the defender, quote, nearly missed the departure of the club's plane, that he missed a training session and was late for a team meal, all of which prompted the modern-day Shankly to exclude Sakho from the squad with the intention to have a sit-down chat with him 10 days later, which never happened. Sakho has since said that he was only 3 minutes late for the meal and that one day he will explain his side of the story during a March 2025 interview, but as of yet, we are yet to hear from the man who was told to Mamadou one before getting the sack. Number 2, Robbie Fowler and Gerard Houllier / Phil Thompson. It's the most well-known entry on this list, but I've saved the spicy one for number 1, so my hands are tied. When someone's nicknamed God, you better do your absolute best to keep them on your side, lest you feel their wrath. But in the case of Gerard Houllier, those words truly fell on deaf ears. In an effort to remove all traces of the Spice Boys and their antics from the Liverpool dressing room, Houllier pretty much told everyone to do with the group, including the likes of Jason McAteer, Jamie Redknapp, Steve McManaman, and one more lad which we'll get to shortly. But one man who was viewed as untouchable by the fanbase was Robbie Fowler, a sentiment not shared by Houllier. In 2001, the Frenchman addressed the media following recent photos of Fowler outside the Liverpool nightclub at 2 AM, saying he viewed it as unprofessional, but that his decision to play Fowler in the reserves team on the Monday had nothing to do with it, whatever you say, boss. This led to cameo appearances in the FA Cup and UEFA Cup finals for the Scouser before he was dropped completely from the Charity Shield match the following season, following a training ground confrontation with then assistant coach Phil Thompson. Houllier demanded Fowler apologise, but when he refused, he was sold to Leeds United that summer before being quoted in 2004 as saying, Houllier did what he thought was in the best interest of the club, but I still wish he hadn't walked through the door at the start of 1998. A confrontation between player and manager which divided the fan base like never before. And number 1, Paul Ince and Gerard Houllier. If you thought Fowler and Thompson were spicy, you haven't seen anything. It's like going from a jalapeno to a ghost chili, but in the form of pepper spray directly to the face. When Jamie Carragher is coming out and saying something is brutal, you know it's serious. As the story goes, following an FA Cup 4th round fixture at Old Trafford, which saw Liverpool lose 2-1, after then club captain Paul Ince limped off the pitch, Gerard Houllier was less than impressed by what he saw. A confrontation between the two took place in the dressing room, which saw Ince question the Frenchman's methods, a question which was answered with another question from Houllier, which was, since I arrived, how many five-a-sides have you won? Before Ince could respond, Houllier told him it was 4 in 6 months, before telling the former Manchester United player, with my team are 1-0 up at Old Trafford, I don't expect my captain to limp off with an injury. If you have to come off, I expect it to be on a stretcher. Ince clearly took offence to this absolute roasting, as following his move to Middlesbrough in 1999, the midfielder was quoted as saying, I want Houllier to get the sack and take Phil Thompson with him. He treats people like dirt, and I cannot believe he's managed the team before, because he certainly doesn't seem to know how. Like nowadays, you have people pinning tweets for massive passive aggression, but back then it was fully fledged scorched earth, a mental case of player and manager truly coming to a fiery impasse.